What I quarrel with is collecting all of the information in California on telephone records to try to find that specific case. That, to me, seems overly broad.
The American public is fearful that in this massive amount of data you get, that there's the ability of the federal government to synthesize that data and learn something more.
What we're doing to protect American citizens here is the right thing. Our agency takes great pride in protecting this nation and our civil liberties and privacy. We aren't trying to hide it. We're trying to protect America.
The desk certainly had the authorities to wiretap anyone from you or your accountant to a federal judge to even the president if I had a personal email.
True or false?
False. I know of no way to do that.
And the lack of leadership, as Steve indicates. I mean, where's the president? Here's a president who triples the number of troops in Afghanistan and doesn't speak about it for a couple of years and is shocked that the country loses interest in the war and he has to, in the end, withdraw. He did the same on a whole host of other issues where he simply initiates, like in Libya, and then he doesn't lead. On this issue, if it is as important as he says, he should be the one out there making at least one speech. Instead, he's up in Massachusetts campaigning on behalf of a Democrat. And in fact, what he did, the one speech he did give, was a month ago in which he basically talked about the theme, the underlying ideas of his foreign policy. The theme was that the tide of war is receding. The war on terror has to stop. That's what he said. All wars stop. This one has to. We want to repeal the authorization for the use of force as a result of September 11. So here's a guy who's saying it's over. We've essentially won. I'm winding it down. And yet at the same time, he's running this unbelievably huge, invasive program whose only idea, whose only basis is the vast terror threat out there. So he doesn't only support his program, he contradicts it in public. And that's the total absence of leadership. And I think that's why his numbers, the poll numbers he now has, are markedly down.
It is not similar, but it is very comparable in the sense that in most of the countries of the Arab Spring, there was no democracy before. There were no real political parties vying for elections in Egypt, in Libya, in Tunisia, and of course in Syria. In Turkey, there were political parties, but the comparison is that in power in Turkey today, you have an Islamist government, as in Egypt, as in Tunisia, and possibly as in Libya. And that government wants to gradually impose, their vision of an Islamic country, very gradually in Turkey. And civil society now has felt that pressure, and they're rising against it.
I urge the young people, who I believe are there with sincere feelings, to put an end to this protest. And I call on those who insist on continuing. This is over. We won't put up with this any longer.
It's a big deal because historically, the government in Turkey, this Islamist government, is the model that the West would like to imagine is the answer to the rise of Islamism. The other answer is Iran, which is authoritarian, totalitarian, extreme, and radical. So everybody says that's not where we want these countries to go. For instance, in Egypt and Tunisia, we'd rather them end up, if they're going to be run by Islamists, by a Turkish-like government. But the problem is, and the reason there are people in the streets, it is not what it appears. In Turkey, you have an Islamist government that is extremely authoritarian. It started out elected, started out like a democracy, but like Putin in Russia, who was also elected and dismantled all the instruments of democracy, it's becoming extremely authoritarian. There are more journalists in jail in Turkey than there are in China. And he's had trumped up charges against opponents in the military, in the judiciary, etc. The reason this is a different uprising than the ones in Egypt and elsewhere, there's an uprising by people against an Islamist government. The ones in the Arab world were against secular dictators with the Islamists waiting in the wing and grabbing power. Here it's anti-Islamist, the first since the one in 2009 in Iran. But it looks as if the government's in no mood to have any compromise.
Kirsten, what
This has been a Sunfish production.